This holiday season, we all wish for hope and healing. Children and families who spend their holidays at the hospital deserve a reason to believe in first steps, in giggles, high fives, and hugs. For 150 years, Children's National Hospital has provided world-class care and groundbreaking research. Please donate today to help patients and healthcare heroes this holiday season. Visit childrensnational.org/holiday. That's childrensnational.org/holiday.
The Traveler's Inn, written by Travis I. Sivart, narrated by Travis I. Sivart. Tangled Skein, Episode 4, Towering Consequences. The sun made Gunther wince. The barbarian's head pounded and his stomach twirled in a slow, stumbling dance of too much ale and a greasy breakfast. Sausage and wine were not the best way to start a day after drinking into the wee hours. And Blueberry was back. The small glowing dragon was flying around the top of the tower that loomed above the group. Gunther wasn't sure if anyone else could even see the creature. But she was a sweetie, and she was sweet on him. He'd woken up with her snuggled up next to him, a vibrating, cooing noise coming from her. It even looked like she was smiling in her sleep. Not an easy thing for a reptile. During breakfast, she was nowhere to be seen. Being that she wasn't longer than his arm, and only as thick as moist, skinny bicep, the barbarian had assumed she was out hunting rats or whatever she ate. Or maybe she just didn't like being around people. Blueberry was a visually interesting dragon. Not like the ones that Gunther knew about from myth and legend. Instead of being built like the traditional version of dragons, she was long, slim, and sleek. She also sported an adorable set of thick whiskers, which twitched with emotion and intelligence. "Reminds me of this one time I rescued a princess with really long hair." Morgan stood with his hands on his hips, staring up at the tower. "She had a really stupid name, but she was great in, pinch." Luna sighed. "A pinch." "I'm bored," Manx said. "Weird music and lights, right?" Moggus asked. What?" Luna turned to look at the wizard. "That's some of the weird stuff Tiggy mentioned. Lights and really weird music, right?" "Glowing lights bobbing in the trees and maniacal songs were her exact words, I believe," the priestess corrected. "Weird, but cool," Manx muttered. "I hope we see some." The kid hated being called moist, Gunther thought. The kid said it was a descriptor, speaking of how he crept into things unnoticed, like moisture. Just a name they gave him back when he was in a gang in the port city of Miasma. And that's exactly why Gunther called him moist. Words had power, and if he could use the right words, then he'd have power over the person they applied to. "You okay, buddy?" Mogget's voice cut through the big man's thoughts. Gunther twitched when he realized that the question had been directed at him. "What the hell did I say to him last night?" the barbarian wondered. "Geez, I can't remember all of it, but I remember telling him about Woofy and Elsie. She was a big girl that taught me so much. I would have run away with her, too, even though she was 5 years older than me and practically an old maid. The things she could do with—" "You all right?" Mogget's hand on his arm jerked him from his reverie. "Gravy!" Gunther shouted. "Frontal assault, boss?" Mogget's added the last word as an afterthought, and it didn't sound like the term held the respect it was meant to convey. The tower was tall-ish. It felt squat and short, but that's because it was so wide. It's 15 meters of height, a respectable height, not even counting the gazebo-looking thing at the top, was underplayed by the fact that it was almost as wide as it was tall. The illusion, that word bothered Gunther. He hated magic and everything that came with it. Made the structure seem shorter than it really was. The trees around the building were stunted, twisted, and withered, webs draped from them, dozens of white silk cocoons dangling from branches and swaying in the breeze. Blueberry darted between them, diving and twisting through the air. She stopped to inspect one, poking at it with a claw and tasting it with her tongue. Some of the human oubliettes were thin and swung more freely, and the barbarian knew that whatever was inside had been drained of all liquid. Bile rose in his own gullet at the idea. I am not afraid of spiders, he thought. They're just icky, and no one likes them, except Moist, but he's a freak, and maybe Hauser, but he say he likes them just to piss me off. No, Gunther said, pushing Hauser's hand away from his arm. We don't assault. Moist, go check the door. See if it's trapped, and then see if it's locked. If it is, open it. If it isn't, open it. I'll be right behind you, ready to kill anything beyond it. Luna, get ready to apply healing spells as needed. Hauser, just make yourself useful. You got it, boss, Margaret said cheerfully, pulling various things from pouches and pockets. I am not a healing priestess, Luna complained, causing Gunther to wince at her whiny tone. I am a warrior priestess, and I shall be prepared for battle. You don't know any healing spells? Manx, stepping towards the door to check it, hesitated. Well, I know some. Healing is part of battle, and to go in without the ability would be asinine. But it's more like a combat medic, not a healer. Don't expect healing, even if I am well versed in it. Yeah, Manx sighed and continued forward. Got it. If I get poisoned or crushed, you might help, or you might attack the trap. Perfect. The rogue crept towards the door, and Gunther thought the kid looked ridiculous, sneaking in broad daylight. Did thieves look that stupid when creeping through dark alleys, preparing to stab someone in the back? He wondered. Manx knelt in front of the entry, swept hair from his eyes, and ran his hands across the flagstones, pressing and pulling on the flat parts and edges respectfully. Blueberry flitted over, zipping around the doorway. She inspected the area, then darted upward to check the windows of the tower. Finding no trigger points, Manx stood and moved to the door frame. His fingers danced along the stout beams framing the entrance. After checking all the outer parts, his hands moved to the seam between the door and the frame. Wizard, Gunther growled at Moggets. Use your magic to check for magical traps. After all, this was a school for your kind. Oh, yeah, Moggets waved away the suggestion. Already did. It's fine. The kid is doing great. You sure? Luna was on the balls of her feet, Morning Star in her hand, tense for any upcoming battle. Oh, yeah, no problem. It's all good, the wizard smiled. Clear. Manx stood and shouted over his shoulder. Except for the spiders in the tree line, there's no threats here, no pressure plates anywhere, and no spring poison things in the lock. Did you unlock it? Moggets asked. What? The thief turned to look at the wizard. Did you unlock the door with no traps, Moist, or do I need to kick the damn thing down? Gunther growled. There is no lock, Manx sighed, shrugging. It's barred from the other side. If it had a lock, I would have popped it and then opened the door. I'm not some dumb backwoods moron who drank all night and doesn't know how to do his job. I can do it, Luna shouted, planting her feet to charge the door. No, woman, Gunther said. Save your strength for calling upon your goddess for healing spells. I'll open the door. The barbarian swept the priestess back with one arm, causing her to stumble. He knows I'm a warrior priestess, right? Luna growled to Moggets, recovering her balance. Moggets shrugged. I'm not sure if he knows what day it is, so I think I can honestly say, maybe? The barbarian slammed into the door, a breath after the wizard's answer. The barrier exploded inward, shards and splinters of wood scattering into the interior darkness, followed by the roaring form of the warrior. Blueberry, darted inside after the man, a squeak of concern rising into the morning air. A descending scream came from inside. A sharp "wah!" followed by a hoo-hoo-hoo echoed off the stone structure's interior, and was trailed by the dull thudding sound of the barbarian hitting something that was probably in a downward direction. The remaining companions traded looks. Then all three turned to the shattered entryway. "Shall we go check on his landing?" Mongus asked. "I guess," Manx mumbled, shuffling forward. "He should have just kicked it. You never know what's, or what isn't, behind a door." "I would have never made that mistake," Luna scoffed, following the rope. "I would have so bashed the door down with my Morning Star and been ready for whatever came at me." "Bashed the door down?" Moggins asked, picking up his pace to stay abreast of the woman. The priestess nodded. "With a spiked ball on a stick?" The woman nodded again. The three crossed the threshold. Manx first, then Moggins and Luna together. Darkness enfolded them, but a dimly lit interior came into focus in moments. The wizard and priestess bumped into Manx, his arms spread out to stop them, and his hands touching their junk, though later Moggins would question if the young man hadn't given a quick squeeze to one or both of their packages. The ground fell away in front of the trio. The broken boards rotted away. About 2 meters of planks around the perimeter of the room was all that remained of what had once been a sturdy wood floor. High-pitched, panicky screams from below let the others know where the barbarian had gotten to. He didn't sound hurt, but he did sound like he had something urgent on his mind. "Spiders," Moggins chuckled. With his chin, he gestured at thick webs connected to the walls of the ground floor and descending into the basement below. The thick webbing created a funnel-like structure that ended 5 meters below on the stone floor of the lowest level. Above them were rafters that showed the second floor was still intact. To the trio's immediate left were stairs that hugged the wall leading up. Moggins waved his hands at the stairs. "Shall we go up, or help our fearless leader who has taken an unfortunate tumble to the lower levels, which appear to be inhabited by spiders of various sizes?" "Kitchen." Manx pointed straight across the open area of missing planks and gestured to the right. "And main fireplace. The chimney probably goes all the way up to the top. Anyone see if there was smoke coming out from above? It will let us know if anyone lives here with the spiders. I would. Spiders keep the riffraff away." All three leaned down to look at Gunther. The barbarian was struggling, his arms and legs tangled in the sticky webs quickly enclosing around him as he inadvertently burrowed his way deeper into them. Blueberry hung in the air above Gunther, coiled in a tight knot, hissing at the moving shadows. Huge, 8-legged creatures skittered along cones of web hallways fashioned using the viscous strings. The architecture was beyond anything any of them had ever seen a spider weave, including Manx, who'd made an intensive study of trapdoor spiders. "So," Luna drew the word out, "down and save the moron, or up and beat the crap out of anything up there?" Manx debated. "He might be of use if we bother to save him," Moggins pointed out. "He might even be grateful." "Ha!" Luna looked at the smaller man. "You know he'll just make excuses or blame you. But you're right. Let's go save him." "Whatever," Manx muttered. "Wizard," Luna took charge. "Burn the flames. Manx, anchor a line so we can get back up. And I'll—" The woman leapt into the darkness with a battle cry to her goddess. "Aretha!" she shouted, disappearing over the edge. Moggins looked around, then looked at what he held in his hands. Shrugging, he tucked the items back into various pouches and pockets and pulled out new things. Glancing at Manx, who was hammering a piton into the stones of the wall, the wizard took a swig of something from a metal flask and spit it in a spray on the webbing nearest him. Striking flint to steel, sparks leapt from the objects, the webs melting, flames rolling downward into the brightening darkness. Manx had tied a coil of rope onto the metal spike he lodged into the wall. The younger man threw the coil over the edge, watching it unwind, and slapped the floor below. "You go down," Mogget shouted. "Help them. I'll keep doing my magic stuff to burn the webbing so the spiders can't hide from us." Manx nodded, drew a dagger, gripped it in his teeth, wrapped the line around his wrists, and rappelled down. Mogget held the flask of oil, waving it around and walking the circumference of the first floor. Pulling a torch from his backpack, he doused it with the flammable liquid and struck the flint and steel to light it. Making another circuit of the room, the wizard applied the open flame to the oil-soaked webbing. The thin threads flared and wandered in a downward wave. Looking over the edge, Mogget's breath caught. Luna was a blur of motion. Her morning star crushed one spider, and she spun to smash in the head of another. Manx was in a crouch, throwing short throwing knives with amazing precision. Blade after blade skewered the heads of the arachnids. The beasts skittered backwards, trying to escape the attacks. The creatures crumpled to the ground, dead legs curling under them. The priestess frothed at the mouth, a thick foam of rage sprang from her lips as she raised her weapon of choice over her head and ran from one monster to the next, bashing them to lifelessness. Mogget pressed his own lips together and nodded approvingly. "That woman can kill," the mage mumbled. Gunther was standing now, singed and smudged from the flames that had freed him from the web. He smacked at his body, doing an awkward dance that didn't seem to be as much from the burning, but the fact that the icky spiders were everywhere. Small spots of black were moving all across the barbarian's body, showing that the huge spiders weren't the only ones inhabiting the basement. The warrior slapped at his chest and arms, whimpering. His sword hung from his back, forgotten. Within a few minutes, a dozen huge spiders lay upside down, legs curled to their abdomens. Luna stood, shoulders hunched, panting heavily, her eyes dark and haunted but glaring into shadowy corners, looking for something to attack. "We good?" Mogget shouted down. "Yeah," Manx appeared from the shadows, clutching a bulbous mass. "I got the cephalothorax pedipalps and a claret from a Gelandae giganticus. This'll be great for my collection." Gunther turned and vomited, all while still doing that special dance that told of things creeping and crawling across his body. "Great?" the wizard called down. "Look around for anything shiny that might be of value and get back up here." In the time it took the others to get back upstairs, Mogget had a chance to look around the remaining rim of flooring that had once been the ground level. He pocketed a few pouches from skeletons of previous adventurers and was dazzled by the set of kitchen knives he's discovered. Using one of the few spells he actually knew, he discovered that the blades were magical and would never rust or dull. "Jinsu," he mumbled, reading the inscription on the flats of the implements. "Maybe Jin construction?" Grunts from behind alerted him that the other three had joined him. Mogget turned to see them pulling themselves up the rope. "Why don't you just use the stairs?" Mogget gestured to the door beside the kitchen that had fallen away to reveal stone steps leading down. He tucked the knives into his sack as his companions looked where he pointed. "Mogget," Gunther growled, stepping towards the man. "No." Manx stepped between the two men. Gunther looked at the smaller man who blocked his way to the spellcaster, his eyebrows shooting up. Blueberry darted behind the thief, looking him over like she was sizing him up to decide if she could take him. "Listen, you stupid sack of muscle." The thief spun a knife, the blade glinting in the dim light spilling through the door and the single torch that Mogget held. "This guy did his thing, and he did it well. Don't go spilling your masculine machismo onto him because you're scared that you didn't. Being a man isn't just about being tough. It's about doing what needs to be done when it needs to be done. So back off and get your head straight, okay? Hey! Luna touched the barbarian's arm, and the big man jerked to look at her, his eyes wide. It's okay. I rage. I know what comes with that. The pressure of needing to prove your worth. I battle with that every damn time I talk to you. I get it. Calm down. It's what you have to do every time you have that beautiful, wonderful surge of power that comes with crushing your enemies, seeing them driven before you, and hearing the lamentations of their women. I get it. So take a deep breath and calm the hell down. Fine, Gunther breathed out heavily. I wasn't going to do anything, but if that damn mage hadn't been jerking off up here and had done what he was here to do. He did do that, Banks spat. So suck it up, Buttercup, and let's see what horrible things are waiting upstairs. We got some good loot from below, and it'll spend well. I think I'm going to buy a nice coat with my share. What about you three? I have some split leather straps on my armor that need repairing, and a new morning star wouldn't do me any harm, Luna added. Sure, Gunther growled. Whatever. I'll rent a bard to write a ballad about my battle, or something. Blueberry landed on the barbarian's shoulder, gripped the man's ear with one claw, and pet his hair with another. I can lead the way upstairs, Moggets grinned. Of course, if I am in the lead, whatever is up there may kill me before we even see the second floor, but I'm willing to do it. No, I've got this. The barbarian puffed his chest out and stepped towards the stairway leading up. Of course you do, Mogget said, gesturing towards the steps. The party moved to the next level, the small dragon standing on Gunther's head, pointing the way upward with a talon. Mogget lit the torches set in the sconces as they moved along the meter-wide stairs, and light flared every 3 paces. At the top of the steps, he jammed the torch into an empty sconce. The next floor opened before them, daylight streaming through a dozen unshuttered arrow slits on the wall. Luxurious accommodation spread throughout the single large room, a wide bed with silk sheets, dark wood wardrobes hanging open to reveal robes and clothing that spoke of wealth, and furnishings that told of wasted money. Lines on the floor showed where the room had once been divided into many smaller rooms. Small beams of wood jutted up from the floor where beams supporting walls, long gone, dotted the area. The thing that really caught their eye was the woman that stood almost 3 meters tall, with 6 hairy, spindly arms. She wore a long, diaphanous gown that shimmered in the torchlight. Her short, cropped dark hair was interspersed with more than a half-dozen shiny black orbs that darted towards the group and followed their every movement. The woman opened her mouth, her bottom jaw spreading downward and apart, and began to sing. The sound was like nothing they'd ever heard in their lives.
This holiday season, we all wish for hope and healing. Children and families who spend their holidays at the hospital deserve a reason to believe in first steps, in giggles, high fives, and hugs. For 150 years, Children's National Hospital has provided world-class care and groundbreaking research. Please donate today to help patients and healthcare heroes this holiday season. Visit childrensnational.org/holiday. That's childrensnational.org/holiday.